Night 2 is in the books. Good evening, everybody. A little bit earlier tonight, thank goodness. 3.5 hours, WrestleMania. Yeah, it's broken up into 2 nights. I can dig it. I hope everybody is doing well this evening, and welcome to your Night 2 WrestleMania recap. I am Don Tony, as always. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I know the mic is in the way. I got a shirt that says shirt. I've worn it before, but I was looking for my Edge shirts, my Daniel Bryan and my Roman Reigns. I could not find any. I do have 2 Edge shirts, but I couldn't locate them. What'd you think of that main event tonight? I thought it was pretty damn good. Roman Reigns retaining the championship. I think this was the only way to go tonight. Only way to go. Got to go into the summertime with Roman Reigns as champion. And you see some of the pieces starting to fall into place. We've been talking about Big E, maybe, dropping that Intercontinental Championship to Apollo Crews, and then maybe Big E starts moving on over to Roman Reigns. I think that is your SummerSlam feud. We'll see what happens. I know a lot of you out there are now starting to get into the idea of Brock Lesnar making his return, but I think if Brock Lesnar returns, Raw is the only place for him. It would be interesting to see how they would handle Paul Heyman. With Brock Lesnar being on Raw and Roman Reigns being on SmackDown, would Paul Heyman be the... Paul Heyman would have... the more I think about it, Paul Heyman would have to be the advocate. Just think about that for a minute. Brock Lesnar's not going to come out there and cut promos for himself all that much. He's not going to do interview segments for himself all that much. He has to have a mic piece behind him. But it hasn't happened yet, so we will talk about that at another time. But I want to shout out everybody who's joining me live tonight, and much love as always. Yesterday, we did a great recap of Night 1. It was a little bit of a toss-up for yours truly last night. Which match did I like more, Bianca versus Sasha or Cesaro versus Rollins? I actually watched both matches again today, and I'm glad that Sasha Banks versus Bianca did it for me. I actually ended up going with them yesterday. Tonight, though, I got to be honest with you, this was a 2-match night as well. Obviously, the main event, Edge versus Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan, did not disappoint. Enjoyed it very much. I just wish they would have gave a few extra minutes for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I wonder how many of you out there thought that I was just about to say Asuka versus Rhea Ripley is the second match in the 2-match night. It was a decent match, don't get me wrong. Something didn't click. And I think I know what it was. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Roger Rubio also feels the triple threat match was awesome. Big Edge fan, totally enjoyed the match. Look, for people out there that think that there were some audible boos tonight for Daniel Bryan, there was. Very few. But the thing is, look at the age that we're in. 2021, things being censored, Peacock removing this. You think Peacock is going to remove the segment with RVD showing his rolling papers? Hey, you can use rolling papers to make homemade cigarettes. It's not always illegal activities. So do I think they're going to... I don't think they're going to censor that. But, I don't know. I mean, it's just... Something was lacking tonight. But we'll get into match by match. Oh, crazy Cruiserweight. Bray Wyatt has 1 win and 4 losses at WrestleMania. We feared this match. I have said for months and months and months, and when I do shows with Mish, he has said it also, we enjoyed the Randy Orton Fiend storyline. It was campy, it was over the top, it was hokey. It was almost at points on the level of Seth Rollins ripping out the eyeball of Rey Mysterio. But this feud was ass backwards. I've been a wrestling fan since 79, which you've heard me say 10,000 times over the years. But I usually watch a feud. It sometimes starts with a regular match, and then you add a little stipulation because they can't control themselves. And even an extra little stipulation is not enough. Maybe you start off with a special guest referee, then it becomes a no DQ match, and then it becomes a cage match or a Hell in a Cell. Big, big stipulation to end the feud. What do we get this time around? We get a brawl. We get somebody set on fire. And then how do you conclude with a regular goddamn match? Explain that to me. And not for nothing. I took a lot of screenshots tonight. Some I did myself, some I took from online. It's not easy to grab all these photos while everything is in real time and do the show 2 minutes immediately after. But I kind of like Alexa Bliss coming out like that. And she was in, the box, getting her makeup ready. Now when you see it close up with the black goop, now you realize it's just water and food coloring, But I liked her role. But at the end, when she does this, and she's basically like just looking at, oh man, what a horrible letdown. Come on. How do you go from being set on fire to a regular match? I think the Fiend, am I correct that Goldberg and Randy Orton are the only two people who have defeated the Fiend? And now Randy Orton, I think, has beaten the Fiend twice or beaten Bray Wyatt twice at WrestleMania. I mean, where does this go from here? I don't know. I don't know where it goes from here. That match puzzled the crap out of me. And there was a picture. I don't know if I have it. Do I have it? I don't have the one that I wanted. But if you looked at Alexa Bliss tonight, when they were showing the close-up of her with her head straight, with the black goop going down her, I looked at her face. She looked like a reject for Mars Attacks. You remember the aliens from Mars Attacks? Remember these? I'm serious. Look at the picture of Alexa Bliss sitting up straight with the black stuff. It was a great visual. I have nothing against Alexa Bliss in the storyline. I'm enjoying Alexa Bliss's work. Beautiful. Don't split them up. Absolutely do not split them up. Who do you do? Have Alexa Bliss going back to what she was before? That opening match was so freaking puzzling to me. So puzzling. But, we'll dissect it. I see a lot of you posting your feedback. King of Games 405. Isn't it ironic how I mentioned Raw Underground last night? Yes. What do we get appearance tonight? Now, look, I have no problem, when they reintroduce a character. But it has not been that long ago that Dabo Kato was all over our televisions with Raw Underground. And Dabo Kato ends up getting involved in the Nigerian drum fight, helps Apollo Crews win the belt, and the announcers and the WWE social media feed and everything else, they're like, who is this mystery man? Who is he? Daba fucking Kato. Yabba Daba Kato. Hey, he's on TV now. I'm fine with it, man. I know already the comparisons, Daba Kato, Omas, because they're 7 feet tall. I think one of the biggest complaints that we have been having about wrestling is so many people that don't look like larger-than-life stars. You're going to have freakazoids, all right? Great Khali, WWE Hall of Fame. Does he deserve it? That could be up for debate. I mean, we know his role behind the scenes a lot bigger than people understand. But when you have someone as big as a Daba Kato or Great Khali and some others, they're not meant to have 4-star matches, 5, even 3.5-star matches. They are a character. This is entertainment. Everybody has unique gimmicks, looks, personas about themselves. Everybody has their role. Alexa Bliss, how much wrestling has she done in 6 months? Seriously. Nobody's complaining. So I think it's nice to see some characters filling in roles, even if it's not in a major wrestling capacity. There is no issue. I have no issue with that whatsoever. But yeah, we were talking about Raw Underground last night, and you see what happens. Reet 90, Wrestling Soup is doing their own recap, which they were going to do. I did not hear from Mish all week about doing a joint show. And as far as my former co-host, you can go on my Facebook page, facebook.com/I think Don Tony Show. Scroll down to about August or September of last year, and you'll see basically what transpired. So no controversy, but I'm not going to spend time over here. That's been beat to death a few too many times. Definitely a few too many times. I absolutely agree with you. Christopher Silva, the Fiend, should have won. Okay, got to fix it. There we go. See, I'm a stickler to detail. Can't even have a little off color. The Fiend should have won. There's no excuse. The crowd shit all over it. I mean, yesterday was fun. And we have fans back in attendance. You feel a little bit of normalcy. This is the first time in about 16 months we truly felt a little normalcy watching what we were watching on TV. And don't get me wrong. And if you're not aware of this, be aware of it now. WWE is still using the soundboard. They piped in boos and cheers all night long tonight, just not as loud. They were basically, any of you out there that's ever been to a wrestling show, especially an independent wrestling show with a smaller crowd, what happens during the night? You'll get one or two fans that'll try to start a chant, whatever it is. And if it's catchy, you get 5, 10, 20, 30 more people chanting. Next thing you know, the whole building is chanting it. Same idea with WWE. You splice in, you pipe in a little bit of a little chant or a reaction, and some people audibly hear it. They don't know it's coming from speakers. How they know it's coming from speakers is when you hear it loud and you look around and everybody has their hands on their asses. But they were doing that, but at points tonight, it was not needed. It was not needed. They probably wished that they had the soundboard ready for that Bella segment towards the end with Bayley. They got booed out of the... Is that what ballin' is? I mean, I know MVP has his ballin', and I know that Ball guy, Keith Ball, whatever his name is, LeVar Ball, whatever his name is... I know that's balling as well, but is that what the Bella is? That what it's called, balling, to come out and swerve your hips and still get booed out of the building? Is that what it's called? I have nothing against the Bellas personally, and I saw the Hall of Fame speech, and it was nice. They deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. They're not revolutionary or anything like that, but when you have to acknowledge in your Hall of Fame speech about haters gonna hate, then you obviously realize there's something about you that people hate. And if you interpret it as just jealousy, that happens to every celebrity in the world. You don't acknowledge it. You don't name drop it. Haters gonna hate, but we're ball. If you can't back it up on the TV, it's kind of embarrassing. I kind of felt bad for them tonight. Kind of felt bad for them. No Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch, after everybody ran with that last night, including yours truly, remember that little social media post spelling out night one? She writes, just kidding. We can't get mad at Becky Lynch. But I will say this. There are a lot of news reports going around, legitimate ones, that are saying that WWE seriously considered having Becky Lynch return at WrestleMania and then jinxed it or nixed it because the word came out. I don't buy that at all, because Nick Khan, he's the one that put it out there for everyone. Guy's one of the biggest executives in WWE. It's not like a wrestler just leaked it out to a wrestling news website and then it went wildfire. This is an executive saying that. So I don't buy it. But if they held it off simply because they wanted all the focus to be on Bianca Belair, they wanted all the focus to be on Rhea Ripley, I think that is asinine. For the simple reason, You have 25,675 fans each night. And you mean to tell me that her returning and that crowd erupting and that organic noise and the chants, Becky, instead of a soundboard, you mean to tell me you passed that up so you could do it with a Thunderdome crowd and a freaking soundboard? Does anybody remember when Bayley turned on Sasha Banks? And you could hear a pin drop in the building because there were no live fans in attendance. If you did not want Becky Lynch to steal any of Rhea or Bianca's thunder, they could have done what we've been saying for weeks and weeks and weeks. Bayley should have done the ding dong hello segment and Becky Lynch shows up. That's it. Not hard, but I'm very disappointed. Very disappointed. I mean, look, if she comes back this week, we'll be happy because she's back. But how do you pass that up? I mean, absorb, take in that energy. She's going to climb the top rope and you're going to see LED screens. I think that was a big error on WWE's part. Oh, yes, VJ. Any of you out there get bored of my show tonight? Right now on Peacock, Smoking Skull Sessions, Steve Austin interviewing Chris Jericho. Yes, AEW is discussed to a certain degree. Remember, for everybody out there that thinks WWE is out of their minds allowing this to happen. Peacock gives you $1 billion, and Peacock, really wants that more than anything else. When you get $1 billion in your hands, you're going to be like, oh, I don't know. Oh, okay. That's what it is. I've seen little drips and drabs of it. Tonight, as soon as I'm done with the show, before I pop an Ambien and pass out for the night, I am definitely going to watch it. I will talk about it tomorrow on the show. I don't know tomorrow if it's going to be a Breakfast Soup Raw with myself and Mish or if it's going to be solo. I have not talked to him all week at all. Something tells me it'll be just normal show. So do not expect any changes tomorrow. Weird start, great finish. Couldn't have said it better, Devin. Couldn't have said it better. We were a little concerned when they announced earlier in the night that The Fiend and Randy Orton were going to be opening up tonight's show. You would have thought maybe it's the women's tag match or maybe Riddle and Sheamus, but they went with Fiend and Randy Orton. We'll get into the specifics of that match in a moment. And I got a couple little stats that you might appreciate as well. Christopher Silva, they probably picked Randy to win just to continue the feud. I don't know, man. I mean, I think Alexa Bliss sitting on top of the box with the black food coloring water dripping out of her mouth, I think that's them continuing the feud. I mean, it just leaves questions like, why did she distract the Fiend? Why was the Fiend? The Fiend gets burned alive, is not afraid of fire, but is afraid of black food coloring dripping out of Alexa Bliss's mouth. The fans did not like the finish. I don't know how WWE could have expected anything otherwise. I did notice it. I don't know if you caught it as well, but at one point, Bray Wyatt yelled out, yeah, for a little tribute to Brody Lee, Luke Harper, which was really nice. I liked the little WrestleMania intro for Bray Wyatt with the flames basically wearing away and him coming out. And then they did the big... Michael Cole is so hilarious because Michael Cole is like, there's a box-like structure around ringside. There's a box-like structure. No shit. It's a freaking box. It's a box with a handle. It's a jack-in-the-box. And he's acting like he has look, I know he's doing what he is told, but just the whole thing about that match. Oh, and I'm sorry, haters that are not going to like this, but didn't I tell you this? Didn't I tell you this repeatedly, that The Fiend was going to go back to his regular attire? You remember everyone out there, oh no, he's going to be reborn. He's going to have this whole new look. Yeah, they did the melted mask to sell for merchandise. You're going to wrestle in that. I don't have anything to show you, but did you look at that rubber mask? Did you see when he was wearing it? The eye opening was here. It was like by his earlobe. How's he going to wrestle with that with half of his eye closed and the opening is over here? It was cool the way it looked. That's not something you wrestle in. And that outfit, my God. And please, people, please, with all due respect, stop tweeting me that it's Bo Dallas under the outfit, these conspiracy theories. Tell other people that are interested. I'm not interested in that. It's not the case. It's Bray Wyatt. It's not Bo Dallas. Oh, but the frame is smaller. Oh, but the frame is bigger. Well, here's an idea. Maybe while Bray Wyatt has been off with his family, maybe he gained a few pounds. Maybe he lost a few pounds. Maybe he was working out. My God, stop with that stuff. Oh, and another thing, another request. If you want to socialize with me on Twitter, since I barely tweet at all other than plug in my shit, stop including other podcasters in with me, especially people that I don't, really converse in. I think Noob is the only exception. Noob is the only one. But for everyone else, you want to talk to me one-on-one. Don't send me a question and include 15 podcasters with it, because most of the time, 99% of the time, I don't respond. So save your breath. Not trying to be a jerk, but that's what it is. Edwin G. Fans booed the Bellas because they thought Becky was coming. No, I mean, they could have expected Becky during that segment. They're just not into the Bellas. I mean, the Bellas are not, look, as I said before, I have no issue with the Bellas going in the WWE Hall of Fame. To me, they're a pioneer for Divas. The Divas TV, Total Divas. If Divas was such a bad word, why would they continue for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, whatever it is, performing on a show that says Total Divas? Why wouldn't they start a crusade or get the Bella Army to start a crusade, change the name, Now, I know they have Total Bellas, but there's still Total Divas. If it's such a horrible word, how come all the women want to be part of it? Divas, 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 divas. The Bellas are pioneers of women in wrestling branching out into reality television. Absolutely. I will not take that away from them. But WWE is really trying to force this narrative of rewriting history, that they started the revolution and this and that. And then when you see, the in-ring work to back it up, where fans really started turning? When they insisted on having Ronda Rousey. Wasn't it Ronda Rousey versus Nikki Bella? Wasn't that the main event for their first women's all pay-per-view? And I remember covering it weeks leading into it. And a lot of people like, man, come on, women's revolution, and you're going to give us this? And sure enough, the match was not very good. So this is what WWE, I think, doesn't understand sometimes. You could push and push and push and push and push, and eventually fans will just give in and try to enjoy whatever you're giving them. But you force a narrative too much, fans will revolt. Even if what you're really insisting on pushing is what the fans should want. Look at Roman Reigns, the first 4 or 5 years. I mean, I know everybody loves Roman Reigns' character right now, and as do I. And the right person won tonight in that match. But for the first 4 or 5 years, forcing it and forcing it and forcing it, the fans, the more you did that, the more the fans revolted. Things need to happen organically. That's why the fans really loved Daniel Bryan winning the championship many years back. That's why the fans loved Bianca Belair. That's why the fans loved a lot with Sasha Banks and Bayley and others. I think back to Bayley when she was still in NXT and the way the fans embraced her, because it was all organic. It didn't feel forced. Sometimes when you allow something to be organic, it's an easier ride. It's an easier ride. Now, WWE is a business, $1 billion business, so they're not going to run the risk of always, doing things organic. but you have to be a little bit more careful. Bad Bunny is going on tour 2022. Yes, I did see that. They put an advertisement on the screen today, February and March of next year. So yeah, as we were talking about yesterday, that's it for Bad Bunny. Maybe another appearance or two, but for the most part, Bad Bunny's in-ring career as of right now is over. I said it yesterday. I had 24 hours to think about it. I thought more and more about Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee was very vocal today as well. Here's the difference between Pat McAfee and Bad Bunny. And this is why I still put Bad Bunny here, Pat McAfee here. Bad Bunny, when you realize and I know Pat McAfee's made $1 million in 7, 8 different professions, but Pat McAfee is around sports. He has been a football player. He's an athlete. All right, I'm not saying that Bad Bunny is not in fit. Bad Bunny is a musical performer, not around sports for the most part, but was a lifelong wrestling fan. And I've said for months, I don't like his music. I don't listen to his music. But I said on this show for months that all I'm hearing from people that I talk to, I got friends that work in WWE. I don't need to name drop stuff like that. If I want to get some information, I get it. But everybody's saying for 3 months, you would not believe how much this guy is working out at the Performance Center, taking this shit seriously. The guy is almost on the level of throwing up sometimes. He's running the ropes 20, 30, 40 times. The guy is almost like obsessed. And Randy Orton today on the bump gave such a poignant tribute to Bad Bunny yesterday. And this guy did not have to do all that. The guy doesn't need the money. The guy is a lifelong wrestling fan. He could have came in, WWE could have treated him with cake and ice cream and soft pillows and make it more of just like a little novelty appearance. But this guy said, no, man, I'm going to give it 500%. Otherwise, I'm not doing it at all. And the guy put on that performance yesterday. That was so unexpected to have that level of work. That's why Bad Bunny is a step above Pat McAfee. Not taking away anything for Pat McAfee, but Bad Bunny, I still don't like his music, and he should not be a WWE superstar on a regular basis. But if he came back to have a match once in a blue moon, I'm for it. The guy sold everything yesterday. He took a beating, and he wasn't, and I know I said this yesterday, but he's not like one of those celebrities that were guest hosting Monday Night Raw, and because they didn't want their character, their real life persona, they didn't want it to take a hit, even though it's just entertainment, that they would always ad lib and add extra lines and always try to have one up on whoever they're having the exchange with. And that you did not find with Bad Bunny at all. So I give the guy nothing but props. And I take pride that all this time, I've been giving props to this guy. Like I said yesterday, you have all these people on social media that ripped this guy for months and months and months. And because he delivers yesterday, and if they dare say what they said even up to a week ago, they would have been ripped apart and knocked off of social media yesterday. So now all of a sudden they're Bad Bunny fans? Give me a break. Even the Bianca Belair stuff, even the Drew McIntyre stuff that we talked about yesterday. Christopher Silva, the Fiend, needs to get his revenge on Randy. Where do you go from here? Like I said, they went backwards. Set on Fire should have been the end. Or if it wasn't, the Fiend gets his revenge. He doesn't have to set Randy on fire. But this is like slopes. This storyline is like slopes. I mean, I'm sorry. Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt have had 2 WrestleMania matches. And the first one had, Thunder Mat. Remember the LED screens on the mat? And Randy Orton, the Viper, a snake. He's looking down and he's freaking out at videos of bugs. Didn't make the Viper look all that great. That match was not good. To me, with all the hype for the last 6-8 months, today was worse. And you can't do the hocus pocus stuff anymore with the live fans. That's why they needed, well, during the match, they had Alexa Bliss go inside the box, which was well vented, and they had her put the black makeup and the stuff all over and everything, and then they lifted it back up, and then she's on the top. That's the closest you're going to get for hocus pocus. But we'll still have Thunderdome for a little bit longer. But that storyline, I liked it. Now, I want it to end. I don't know how it ends. I don't know how it ends. It almost feels like they don't even know how to end it right now. That's how it feels. And Edwin G, thank you, DT, for liking his comment from the tweet yesterday. Oh, sure, my friend. You know, when I said earlier, you know, it's not, you know, for everybody. You know, I got my family, friends, all of you out there. Select some people out there that, you know, I address it to. And Cruiserweight realizes on all three brands, not including NXT UK, the main champions, Roman Reigns, Bobby Lashley, and Karrion Kross are all heels. Well, the Karrion Kross thing, you have to wait a little bit because WWE is a little bit in the middle right now of which direction they're going to go with Karrion Kross. Me, honestly, I think you leave him as a tweener. I don't think he should be a clear-cut heel or a clear-cut babyface. You leave that mystique and aura about him, but right now it's a little bit up in the air. It's a little bit up in the air. Now, a couple little stats that you might appreciate. Tonight was Randy Orton's 17th WrestleMania. That makes him third all-time as far as WrestleMania matches. Undertaker is number one with 27. Triple H is number two with 23. And then tied for third, Shawn Michaels, Kane, Randy Orton. So that's a little statistic. Also, you know, we talked about it yesterday. Today is the 10-year anniversary of Edge retiring. When Edge was forced into retirement because of neck injury. It was 10 years ago today. I still don't understand why WWE did not focus more on the comebacks of all three people. The only thing, like I said yesterday, the only thing I could say could explain it is they didn't want to remind people about Roman Reigns with the leukemia. You know what I mean? Because if you think about it, Roman Reigns came back from leukemia. Daniel Bryan came back from retirement, serious head issues. Edge comes back from retirement. All three pretty much came back from all different, and all three of them are in the main event tonight for Mania. That in itself is extra special. But, you know, and someone even told me today that main event involved a wrestler who debuted in the 90s versus a wrestler who debuted in the 2000s versus a wrestler who debuted in the 2010s. I know that's not a big statistic. One more I wanted to give you is today. It was either yesterday or, no, actually it was yesterday. Yesterday is the 13-year anniversary that Natty made her WWE debut. The week before, they showed her sitting in the crowd, but it was 13 years ago yesterday that she actually made her debut and got on the mic and introduced herself to the WWE Universe. So we had some, you know, little anniversaries today. By the way, Natty and Tamina, if you remember my predictions, I wanted Natty and Tamina to win those belts. I am one of those that I've said for the longest time. I don't think you give a title simply because of longevity. But when you take a step back and think about all of the women's championships that have launched in the last decade or so, and you realize that Tamina has never won a women's championship, that just blows my mind. And let me tell you something. Natty is all over the place on TV. Even today, when she's cheering the fans, come on, everybody, let's go. Come on, you guys. And I'm saying to myself, no, you've been playing a heel for all these months. You know, if you think about it. But I loved that the crowd got into Natty and Tamina today, because especially under the circumstances and all of these years that, they've tried to do all these things with Natty, to see the fans embrace Tamina tonight was pretty damn cool. It's a little shame that they didn't win those belts. I hope they get a rematch, and I hope they do win those belts. Obviously, there's something else in the works right now for Nia and Shayna Baszler, but I thought that tag match was actually pretty good today. I thought it was pretty good. I'm a little surprised that Natty and Tamina did not win those belts. But look, I agree with you, Sizzle. Tamina is not spectacular in the ring. She's not bad. But I'm sure if you and I did a little research and you gave me one day to prepare, we probably could come up with 50 women that are not so spectacular in the ring across WWE, Impact, and AEW who have won women's championships at least once. I think it would have been cool to see Tamina and Natty get it, but it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Last super chat before we start filling in the blanks with the matches today. Yes, AS, I said it early tonight with your comment. WWE absolutely made the right decision by having Roman Reigns retain. Edge loses nothing tonight. Concerto, to both. Roman Reigns pinning both of them. Dominance. That's what was needed. Maybe we will now see Edge versus Daniel Bryan have a little bit of a feud. And you know what's great about that? There's no titles involved. And it makes sense. Edge came back because he wants that title. There's no reason why he can't get it at a later date. But that's all he wanted. Daniel Bryan ruined that opportunity in more ways than one. Daniel Bryan could also say Edge ruined Daniel Bryan's opportunity in more ways than one. Think Fastlane as the start. So them having a feud against each other fits perfect. You don't turn around. No one's going to say, but wait a minute, they were going for titles. Why? Makes total sense. Roman Reigns being the top dog absolutely is the right way to go right now. Absolutely cannot complain with that whatsoever. Kane Shaw, my thoughts on the negative reaction for Hogan tonight. Look, there's a lot of people, and I've brought this up before, there's a lot of people that have not forgiven Hulk Hogan for the racist words that he said before. I have said many times before that Hulk Hogan, I think, originally cried and apologized because of the ramifications of what he said, because his first reaction was, I grew up and everybody talked like that and this and that. There was no malice, but I believe in time he has learned and understood why it's so wrong, and I truly believe that he has changed. But unfortunately, that's not enough for a lot of people. And when you realize that Hogan, there was so many times that people were saying Hogan needs to go to some minority schools and do some speeches and this and that about, what he said and learning and this and that, and never did it, but then went and acknowledged an award for the Cub Scouts. I don't remember what the exact awards was. Like, he just avoided all of that. And I think the reason is because he didn't want to have to handle people confronting him to his face about what he said. I remember when he said, I want everybody, give me a second chance and this and that. He blocked a shitload of people back in the day, and people gave him a second chance, and he still had everybody blocked. So I think a lot of it was for PR, but a lot of people have never forgiven the guy. And look, Hogan has made appearances. Think about this. Hogan has made appearances in the WWE over the last couple of years and has been cheered tremendously. Hogan has not done anything recently, to really rub people the wrong way. But, when this gets rehashed, and it's especially with what's going on in this world for the last couple of years, and you think about the tragedies last year with George Floyd and others, You know, a lot of these wounds are reopened, and Hogan silent for the most part. You know, and believe me, I tell you, I don't want to bring this up, but I'll bring it up because a lot of you out there have said it to me and you're thinking about it, and some people don't want to say it publicly, fear of backlash. But a lot of you out there think that the only reason why WWE had Hulk Hogan and Titus O'Neil co-host the WrestleMania weekend is so Hogan could be positioned with a black person. That, look, Hogan can get along and be friends with a black person. There's a lot of people that feel that way. I don't know what the motives were. All I know is that Titus O'Neil, wonderful man, totally deserving of the Warrior Award, good guy, extremely well liked, and, you know, it's just a shame, you know, that it's still out there. I think Hogan could have done things to mend fences a little bit better, and, you know, it's up to him if he's going to ever do that, you know? So, let's fill in the blanks for WrestleMania today, because we already covered night one. No reason why we have to spend a crazy amount of time, because a lot of these matches tonight, let's be honest, were not all that spectacular. Oh, and by the way, I grabbed this photo from yesterday. Remember we talked about that shot by Bianca Belair in Sasha's midsection? That was immediately after the match. Wait till you see the photos. If they haven't posted already, wait till you see the photos that are going to surface online. I mean, it looks a little worse than it does right now. And wouldn't surprise me if WWE maybe puts a little makeup to make it even more. If I was WWE, you have Sasha cut a promo on Friday and make that exposed. And let me say something else. If you haven't seen it already, there's a little video floating around online. It only runs about 15 seconds. After Bianca Belair won the championship, Sasha Banks was outside the ring against the ringside area, out of the camera area, so Bianca Belair could have a WrestleMania moment. Fan that was at ringside had her iPhone on, and she caught a few moments of Sasha Banks on the floor, basically trying to be incognito, and Sasha Banks had a smile on her face from ear to ear, so happy for Bianca Belair. Anybody that's been following my shows for years knows that for a very long time, I could not stand Sasha Banks' attitude, you know, for various things. She has come back, and I said, she's going to do an interview sooner or later. And that time that she took off was probably the greatest thing that could have ever happened to her. But I am so much a Sasha Banks fan now. She has won me over, not just personality, but ability and everything she's doing in the ring. Yes, before anybody says it, Asuka and Sasha Banks are undefeated. Well, I shouldn't say undefeated. They're perfect at WrestleMania. Asuka is, and I wrote it down, Asuka is 0-4 at WrestleMania, and Sasha Banks is 0-6 at WrestleMania. So they are perfect for the wrong reasons. Both of them have no wins at WrestleMania. But putting that aside, if you haven't seen that video that I'm talking about, go check it out. Really, really nice gesture on Sasha Banks' part. They are winless. Yes, you are right. They are winless, Mr. Mike. Ashlyn Kraft performing America the Beautiful. I thought she did a pretty good job. We had 3 performances tonight. Ashlyn Kraft with America the Beautiful. Wale performing Big E's theme. And who is the woman that performed for Rhea Ripley? She was, Ash Costello of New Year's Day. You know, I mean, I guess she did a decent job with Rhea Ripley's theme. Wasn't that bad. Wale was fine. I really could not have any problem with any of the performances. Titus O'Neil, Hulk Hogan. Did I take a screenshot? Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did. They came out wearing pirate outfits, you know, they couldn't do it yesterday because of the rain and the humidity, but they came out wearing pirate outfits, and Hogan, more audible boos tonight compared to yesterday, welcoming everyone to WrestleMania. And somebody sent this photo. I thought it was such a beautiful picture of tonight. I thought that was nice, but this, after the skies cleared, this was tonight, right before the event started. And man, that just looks so nice. I think it really was nice, the setup. I think WWE did a wonderful job. I think we all agree that WWE lacked a little bit on the intros, for the wrestlers this year. Bray Wyatt with some pre-recorded special effects stuff, which looked fine to me. Bad Bunny on the 18-wheeler. We had a little bit, but not on the level of years past with WrestleMania. I would have thought they would have had maybe a little bit more spectacle because of the fact we've been in the pandemic, and maybe you make up for a little bit of the setup on the outside area with just crazy ass pomp and circumstance. But they did not do that this year, and maybe they didn't do it. It could be the reason why. I know a lot of people out there think that the 2-night WrestleMania is a great idea. Logistics wise, it is very, very difficult to do, and it's not going to happen on a regular basis once this pandemic is over. But another thing too, you set up, a lot of the stage for some intros, and you have 2 nights. It's not very easy to basically gut certain areas and then redo them. Some of the intros that you've seen over the years, people have had totally different setups because they didn't intertwine with each other. So, yeah, SoFly, it's not going to stay 2 nights as far as making money over it. That's just not the case. The amount of work that's involved to clean up and set up for 2 nights, plus the expenditure and everything else, it's going to really turn things into, unless they do something tremendously different with the Hall of Fame, that you eliminate some of these meet and greets and some of these get-togethers. You may end up with more of the virtual meet and greets. If you eliminate some of those, then you could very well have the 2-night event. But I personally think if you do a 2-night event, you gotta give fans pretty much the only opportunity, to buy both nights, to double dip. Yet you're dividing the show into 2. That's a hard sell for a lot of people. Imagine wanting to go to Mania and then realizing I got to buy tickets for 2 nights. Yeah, there might be an extra hour and a half attached to it, but I think that's a little difficult for some people out there. So, but hey, we'll see what happens. So as we already talked about, Randy Orton and the Fiend opened up tonight for WrestleMania. We had bad feelings about this match going into the event simply because of the lack of stipulation. This was Randy Orton's outfit tonight, which a lot of people, really enjoyed. So I figured I'd show you a little screenshot. And Alexa Bliss, obviously, as I showed you before, Alexa Bliss being Alexa Bliss. I still find it uber weird that some grown men out there feel uncomfortable that Alexa Bliss is like skipping down the ring and the way she has her outfit. There's some very weird, perverted people out there. I don't know. It's just strange. But they brought the giant Jack in the Box. Alexa Bliss wound it up, and Bray Wyatt came out through the top. And I think we all figured that Bray Wyatt was going to dive onto Randy Orton because there were no ladders. There was really no way to get down from that box. But I will tell you this, there was a side opening, and I do know that there's at least 2 camera videos out there of Alexa Bliss climbing into the box from the side. So if you're wondering how she got in the box. But they had a match. Bray Wyatt, again, as we expected, back to his original look. the match was okay, but the ending, the fact that Randy Orton won, period, just pissed off a lot of people. The storyline is just a mess, an absolute mess. Think about it. Randy Orton set the Fiend on fire. The only storyline that makes sense is Alexa Bliss is playing mind games on Randy Orton, leading to the Fiend returning. The Fiend returns, and he gets his revenge on Randy Orton. Why throw a giant monkey wrench in it simply so you can have Alexa Bliss look like this, and Bray Wyatt is in a trance. He gets distracted. Randy Orton with the RKO, and Randy Orton wins. The crowd did not like it, and to make matters worse, they did the whole thing with the lights going off, and when they came back on, they were gone. Bray Wyatt was gone. Alexa Bliss was gone. Fans did not enjoy it at all. Now you go into WrestleMania like, okay, opening match sucked. It sucked. And yes, we have fans back. Yes, it's WrestleMania. But then you start reminding yourself that the same people that work in WWE that give you shitty Raws week after week after week and some really lackluster storylines are the ones that were writing for WrestleMania 2. And you're saying to yourself, you know, I'm wondering what the night has in store. And you know what? Speaking of that, I put these aside. Yeah, there we go. So I don't know where this storyline goes from here. All I know that it's ass backwards. And if they're now going to tease a split with Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss, I think that is almost as bad as WWE breaking up the Hurt Business. And I don't know who Cedric and Shelton pissed off, but we talked about it yesterday. I mean, in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, they were eliminated almost immediately. But this opening match, you know, we're left with a little bit of a bad feeling. Oh, shit. You know what? I'm going to just keep them off. I forgot to number them in order. We know what matches there are. Yeah, conspiracy, but it's not the conspiracy that we want. It doesn't make sense. Tell me one scenario that would happen on Raw that would make what you saw tonight with Randy Orton versus, what, Alexa's going to align herself with Randy Orton? Why? Tell me how that makes sense. Even if it ends up being a setup down the line. This should have ended at WrestleMania. Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, did not have to set Randy on fire, but could have choked him out and done enough damage to explain Randy Orton being off TV for 2 or 3 weeks. Randy Orton is a veteran now. Randy Orton could go home for a couple of weeks. Relax. You worked hard for the last year. He legitimately worked a lot more than any of us thought he was going to work. Go home. Go home. Fiend should have just gotten a win, and that's it. Move on to something else. So, and Puffy, the idea of Alexa Bliss having control of the Fiend, if that's the case, why would she want the Fiend to lose? Why would she distract him like that? What's the purpose? If you think of the whole storyline leading up to now, it just, to me, it's all over the place. And I'm just not feeling it. We get a little backstage segment. Titus O'Neil, Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, basically having a little chat. Bayley shows up, you know, doing pretty much the same thing as yesterday. You know, she wants a little bit of time, and we got her out there at the very end of the night, as we talked about earlier. Fell flat. I don't know what WWE was thinking at that time. You know, there was no soundboard that was going to cover up the garbage that took place later on with Bayley and the Bellas. Bayley and the Bellas. Sounds like a bad music band. Tamina, Natty lose their opportunity for the tag team championships versus Nia and Shayna Baszler. Tamina getting a nice pop from the crowd. Shayna Baszler was phenomenal in this match. Early on in the match, she hit a knee to Natty's mouth that they repeated in slow-mo, and it looked like it connected, but Natty sold it wonderfully as well. And then, I mean, this hurt me because of what happened to me 2 weeks ago, and I still have crazy ass pain in my ankle. Natty was on the mat, and Shayna Baszler basically has Natty's ankle positioned a certain way, and she stomps on it. And I tell you, I honestly don't understand how Natty didn't get injured with her ankle. Ankles are not supposed to twist that way. But Shayna put on an excellent performance. But the majority of this match was about Tamina and Nia. That's what the fans wanted to see. We had a little bit of them brawling a little bit. One point during the match, Nia was trash-talking Shayna Baszler, saying, "You ain't shit." Peacock tried to censor it, was unsuccessful. You know, I run this, bitch, you bitch. And there was one segment in this match that was awful. It's not the women's fault, but I guarantee you by tomorrow you will see tons of websites repeating it. There was one point where you had Nia Jax climb the top rope. Tamina and Natty are in the ring, and Nia jumps off to do a crossbody on both of them, just for a 2 count. The cameraman that filmed this, they used the camera shot behind Natty and Tamina. And you see them in the ring, and they're going like this. And they're set up. What we talked about yesterday, waiting to catch Nia. And it just looked horrendous. I know a lot of people focus on AEW with those dives. Tonight was embarrassing. You go back and you watch it, you'll see what I'm talking about. But, you know, in the end, Tamina, nice pop from the crowd. Natty trying to win the crowd over. I think the crowd was a little confused because Natty's been a heel for much of the past year or so. But the very end of the match, Nia Jax was not the legal woman in the ring. Shayna Baszler was. And Natty tries to put the sharpshooter on Nia Jax. Now, moments earlier, Tamina tried to do the Superfly splash on Nia, but Nia rolled out of the way. Tamina was basically out of the ring, so she was done. And it's not the first time, Soldier, that Tamina's gotten a reaction. Back in the day, she actually used to get some reaction, but it felt good. It felt good because she's one of those women, you know, that I root for, that is not on my top tier list, but, you know, works hard and tries to do the best. And for what she does, she doesn't look clueless out there. The daughter of Jimmy Snuka, yes. I mean, Jimmy Snuka was one of my favorites for many, many years. But in the end, Natty has the sharpshooter on the wrong person, and Shayna Baszler hits the ring, Kirifuda clutch, and that's it for Natty. Tamina, you know, she was pretty much done in the match. And Nia and Shayna Baszler retain. A little surprising for me. I thought that they were going to win. Yes, I'm sick of the roll-ups. At least we didn't get much of that this weekend. Now we get Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. Logan Paul comes out. Crowd does not like Logan Paul. Sami Zayn, El Generico, Kevin Owens, Kevin Steen. We have watched them perform, fight each other for years and years and years, way before WWE. Ring of Honor, Indies. Ring of Honor is Indies. California, Canada, NXT, WWE. But this was a match that both of them always wanted. They always wanted to face each other at WrestleMania. And this was one of the matches I was looking forward to this weekend more than anything else. I gave my 5 matches, and that match was on it. Cesaro and Rollins was on it. They didn't disappoint. They tore it up. Logan Paul, you know, it was kind of goofy at ringside because the crowd is chanting this is awesome at times, and he's chanting this is awesome also, even though it was at a point where Kevin Owens was beating the shit out of Sami Zayn. But those two guys tore it up. I mean, they just put on a clinic. Should have gone longer. Left me with the same feeling I had yesterday with Cesaro and Seth Rollins. They would have went another 5 minutes, 10 minutes. We would have loved it. But they, you know, had their match a little bit abbreviated. And even the win felt like it was a little bit out of nowhere. Sami Zayn went for the haluva kick, hit it the first time, tried to hit it again. Kevin Owens reversed into a super kick. Then he nailed the second super kick and then the stunner for the win. Kind of out of nowhere, kind of rushed, but pretty much what happened after the match is what we pretty much expected. Logan Paul hits the ring, and he might be a YouTube star and a boxer and everything, but if you paid attention closely, you know, I think was at chapter 3 before reading chapter 1. Like, he's kind of like arguing with Sami before Sami could even like accuse him of something. And the next thing you know, their feud is not out of nowhere, Darren. Those two guys have been off and on for years and years and years. The whole conspiracy thing, you know, that's just you'll see it all put together. But this is what they have been requesting for WrestleMania. They wanted a match against each other. WWE gave it to them. You didn't need a whole thought-out storyline for those two guys. They have such a rivalry that all they got to do is say, I want to kick your ass. It's on. It's on. But Logan Paul, after he's got a couple of words with Sami Zayn, Logan Paul goes over to Kevin Owens. That was awesome. Fabulous. And Sami Zayn's like, what the hell are you doing? Did you see what he just did to me? Now, Logan Paul did not knock Sami Zayn out with a punch, which I had thought was going to happen. They went the safe route. Logan Paul just pushes Sami Zayn backwards. Sami falls on his ass. Kind of looked a little bit like what happened to Mandy Rose yesterday. Sami rolls out of the ring, and Logan Paul holds up Kevin Owens' arm. And the crowd is not liking it. So, obviously, WWE expected that. Kevin Owens, Logan, they all expected it. So Kevin Owens is looking at the crowd, and the crowd is, you know, basically, they could sense that Kevin Owens is thinking about hitting a stunner on Logan Paul. So the crowd starts going, yes, yes, yes. And Kevin Owens, you know, in storyline, he realizes what they want. He puts a little grin on his face. He's looking at his arm like, did this guy just touch me? So he goes back to Logan Paul, and he holds his arm up in the air again. The crowd knows exactly what's coming. Kevin Owens lands the stunner on Logan Paul. You know, some very quick camera, you know, work, 2 different camera shots done. But I thought Logan Paul took it fine. Crowd ate it up. Crowd loved it. Kevin Owens walks out a winner, and he stuns Logan Paul. Pretty good match. I tell you the truth. With 3 matches in, 7 on the night, I'm saying to myself, okay, other than the main event, this is going to be hard to top. Now we get a backstage segment with Riddle right before his match. He's rolling on the scooter. He sees Great Khali, and he's trying to make business proposals with Great Khali. He looks at Khali's ring. He's talking about how big Khali's hands are, and he's talking about how Khali should open up a giant store, giant shirts, giant gloves, giant toilets, and Khali is acting like he don't understand anything. Next thing you know, Rob Van Dam comes in. Rob Van Dam, Riddle is marking out with Van Dam. They did a little segment on the bump as well. And it was funny because, you know, Van Dam is talking about business proposals, and Van Dam whips out rolling papers that he sells under his name. And on video, he actually says to to Matt Riddle that, you know, he can manufacture like these with the rolling papers. And then I think Riddle said something about a collie trolley or something like that. But right away, social media, oh my God, he showed rolling papers. Yeah, for WWE standards, a little bit, you know, what you wouldn't expect. But Rob Van Dam is Rob Van Dam. God bless him. You know, the more states are legalizing marijuana, although marijuana is obviously not something that kids should enjoy, but if it's legalized, you know, I mean, there's not much you could really say or do about it. And again, you know, rolling papers actually can be used to roll regular cigarettes, but, you know, it was what it was. They did something absolutely goofy tonight. I don't know if I took the picture of it. I don't think I did. I'll double check now. I really don't think I did. Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did. When Riddle came out, they actually did this. They put the freaking birds, the doves back on the screen, and this time they put WWE pirate hats on the doves. I don't know who the hell came up with that, but that was god-awful. Thank God we didn't get the Braun this. Remember? I don't think we got the train yesterday. They do that with those doves. You know, Sheamus had a tweet tonight that was hilarious. You want to see doves? I'll make you see doves. After I kick you in the mouth as you're doing a flip off the top rope and Riddle's mouth is all busted open. There's your doves. I don't know who the hell came up with that, but please, that's got to stop. That was just freaking horrendous. Now, Riddle and Sheamus, you might remember about 6 months ago, I talked about how they had an incredible match on Raw. Those two guys gel great together. And tonight, they had a really, really good match. There was one point I talked about Shayna with the knee to Natty's mouth. We had one with Sheamus with a knee to Riddle. And they repeated it 2 or 3 times. Looked beautiful, only for a 2 count. Towards the end of the match, there was a botched spot. Sheamus was going to do white noise off the top rope. And, you know, they're fumbling around on the top rope. Sheamus goes to pick up Riddle, and he starts losing his balance. And look, even though it didn't look great, you don't want to do the move anyway, because I think a lot of people will remember, I don't remember what the actual move was, but there was one time, I think it was Kairi Sane and Nia Jax, where I think Kairi Sane was not perfectly set in the corner, and Nia was just like, fuck it. And she just still went full force, and Kairi Sane got injured. Sheamus started losing his balance, and instead of trying to execute the move anyway, he came off the top rope, landed in the ring, but still hit white noise. You know, it was a little messy, but, you know, hey, you don't want anybody to get injured. So it happened. But then Sheamus climbs the top rope and hits the knee off the top rope for a 2 count. Yeah, I didn't want to spark up criticism for Nia. I think Nia has improved quite a bit since some of those debacles back then. I'm a fan of Nia Jax. I'm sorry if that angers some of you out there. And by the way, I know I asked this a lot, and I'm going to do it probably once or twice tonight. For everybody who's tuning in live right now, you know, I would greatly appreciate if you're enjoying the show, if you could smash that like button. The more you do it, the more you help the show, and YouTube will recommend the show to others. You know, like I always say, like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. And costs nothing. So if you could do that for me, I would greatly appreciate it. But towards the end of the match, Sheamus, you know, he's getting the upper hand, a little back and forth. Crowd was chanting, "This is awesome," at some points. They chanted it for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn as well. But Riddle goes to the middle rope and flips backwards. And it's not on the level of Randy Orton's RKO to Seth Rollins a few years ago at WrestleMania. Remember when Seth Rollins attempted the curb stomp and Randy Orton with the art? That's one of the greatest moves I've ever seen at WrestleMania. This is not on that level, but it's one of those that you'll remember. Riddle upside down, flipping backwards, Sheamus with the bro kick. Nails the tip of his boot, nails, because you could see as in slow motion, as Riddle is going backwards, his mouth is not busted open. The minute Sheamus's foot connected with Riddle's mouth, blood. Just busted him open. Probably needs a few stitches in his upper lip, unless he bit his tongue. I hope he didn't bite his tongue. If anybody out there has ever bitten their tongue, but Sheamus gets the win. Sheamus is your new United States champion. A lot of us were calling this. I mean, Sheamus is not, for most of you out there, one of your favorites. Neither is mine. But there's no doubting that for the last year and a half, Sheamus has put on some of the better quality matches that we've seen on TV. He's gone up against AJ Styles. He's gone up against Riddle. He had some decent matches with Jeff Hardy. I mean, you could go down the list. This guy, Drew McIntyre, come on. Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, it might be in the top 5 of match of the year so far, even though we're only in April. So props to Sheamus. New champion, well-deserved. Matt Riddle might need a few stitches today. Might need a few stitches. Oh, I did it. There's RVD showing the papers to Riddle. I don't know, man. I know a lot of you out there don't like Khali in the Hall of Fame, but like I said, if you really start understanding all the work he's doing behind the scenes for WWE in India, the guy, it's not always just the in-ring career, it's outside the ring. I mean, he would not be one of my top choices for the foreseeable future. But, you know, I could understand why he got put in the Hall of Fame. So, couple of super chats, if you don't mind, and then we'll get into Apollo Crews and Big E. Puffy89 says another good night for WrestleMania. He knows they won't keep it, but having it 2 nights is not a bad idea. Hey, he along with SoFly and a bunch of others are saying the same thing. Look, they're going to be in Dallas, Texas next year. Telling you, you should know by now. I don't lie. All right? I might put too much hope on a lot of my stuff, and sometimes I can't deliver every little thing that I say I'm going to do. But I don't just put things out there just to get a reaction from people out there or to feel, you know, that I'm included in a conversation. Because there's a lot of people out there who have been promising you a lot of things and haven't given you squat. But I'm telling you, I will be in Dallas, Texas next year for WrestleMania. Barring some tremendous health issue from yours truly or something tragic, I am in Dallas, Texas next year. I hope you all will be as well, and we can all hang out, have a couple of beers, whatever you drink. Soda's fine as well. But, you know, if you asked me, would I rather have 2 nights of WrestleMania like we had this weekend, but not be able to go to a Hall of Fame and not be able to do this and not be able to do that because all those events would have to be bypassed for Saturday? You know, I don't know if I would want to do that. I kind of like the idea of, you know, showing up on a Thursday, you know, maybe in the afternoon or evening. You do a few things on Friday, because you got to remember also, there are other wrestling companies that do shows. A lot of you out there, look, when WrestleMania came to our neck of the woods 2 years ago, we were going to go to House of Glory, but, you know, that fell through for reasons beyond my control. Not going to get into it here. But we were going to go to House of Glory. We were going to go to, I don't remember what promotion in Jersey. Then we all hung out at Lucky 13, that bar saloon in Brooklyn. Then you had WrestleMania the next day. And some of us even thought about going to the Hall of Fame. So there's so many different things, and I don't want to lose all of those opportunities because WrestleMania is going to take up Saturday and Sunday. And I know what you're going to say. Well, they could do some of those things during the day. I don't want to be wiped out, you know, by Sunday morning, you know, because, so look, let's see. It's also going to depend on how strong the storylines are, because, you know, if wrestling doesn't have a lot of momentum next year and there are some missing names, maybe you could fit it all on one night. But I totally understand why some of you feel that way. Also, Philip Maffey thought this year's Mania was good. Night 1 was way better than night 2. You know, it's a toss-up for me. Because night 1, I loved Rollins and Cesaro. I also loved Owens and Zayn. I kind of put them almost on the same level with each other. And then you got Sasha and Bianca, and Lashley and Drew, which was not bad either. And then on the flip side, you have Roman, Edge, and Daniel Bryan. And that crowd was lit for that three-way tonight. I mean, other than Vince's pop for coming out yesterday, that first reaction from the fans, this main event tonight, that crowd was on fire. So it's almost a toss-up for both nights. I think the reason why a lot of people are leaning towards night 1 is because of the Bray Wyatt garbage that we got earlier. And a lot of that immediate emotion that we all had yesterday, when you first saw the live fans, when you were hearing some of the chants and you seen the emotion, you and I talked about it for weeks. You were going to see fans visibly crying. You were going to see wrestlers visibly crying. You know, understand, when you read I'm sorry for repeating this, but when you read wrestling news websites that say WWE and AEW will never go to house shows and tour again, you're dealing with people that are not in the wrestling business. They're not in the entertainment business. They're not even in business. Then you look at a wrestling company and you understand that all of those wrestlers there, to their livelihood and to be performers, it's meant to be in front of a live audience. And they had to sacrifice everything over the last 16 months. And imagine going in, they don't hear all the piped in stuff like we hear it at home. You go in there, it's not the same. You saw a lot of wrestlers get overwhelmed. Drew McIntyre got overwhelmed in a backstage interview yesterday. His emotions were so high. So live fans, they will make wrestling better. And you give it 2-3 more months and another 50 million people in the United States get vaccinated. Right now, 130, 140 million have at least one dose. So, you know, with Moderna and Pfizer, the second dose is within 3 or 4 weeks, depending on which shot you get. So a month from now, you're going to have more than a third of the country vaccinated. Almost half the country will have at least the shot. This virus will linger for 2 years, 3 years, but it is not going to overwhelm. It's not going to overwhelm. There's always going to be flu. There's always going to be mumps. There's always going to be chickenpox. There's always going to be illnesses. You know, if you don't get vaccinated, you're taking a chance. But you live in a free world where you have that right to take that chance. But a couple of months from now, there's not going to be a pandemic anymore. And people, you know, will start getting back to a real urgent normalcy. We need to get back to normal. So rest assured, everyone, they announced Dallas, Texas next year. They're not going to be in a Thunderdome environment between now and next year's WrestleMania. They will tour again. Do not listen to those websites out there. And then to try to cover it up, oh, Vince changed his mind. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Because a lot of people have fed you a lot of crap. Arlington, Texas, I say Dallas, Texas, Arlington, Texas. I'm thinking Dallas, Texas because of Steve Austin. But still, Texas, next year, I'm there. I hope some of you will be there as well. I promise you, we will get together. Even if we look into getting a section, you know, even if we have to sit in the boondocks, if we could all hang out in a specific section. I know some of you out there, you know, if you could get really good seats, you're not going to pass that opportunity up, and I wouldn't either. But we got a year to work on it, so we'll see what happens. By the way, shout out to Chris Zulima, Matthew Regan, Brandon Jones, Keith, Abdul Khalik, Hightower, Nice Analogy, and others who are checking out the show on other mediums. You know, a lot of people try to rub in my face about other YouTubers that have 10 times the amount of viewers that I do. Number one, 80%, 70 to 80% of everybody who enjoys my shows access audio-only versions of what I do. Plus, this is streaming on Twitter right now. It's streaming on Periscope, which to me is the same thing. It's on Twitch. It's on other outlets, Facebook. So you want to add all those numbers together and the audio, you know, I don't play that game. But for some people out there, I see some of the little comments, I just ignore it. So let's get back to Mania. Big E versus Apollo Crews, Nigerian drum match. To me, it looked like nothing but a weapons match. There you go. Singapore canes, some remnants of drums. Did they even use the drums? I don't recall the drums being used. Did anybody's head get smashed in the drum? I don't think so. Did anybody get a drum smashed over their head? I don't think so. It just seems like it was mostly Singapore canes and steps. You know, maybe instead of tables, ladders, and chairs, it should have been tables, candlesticks, and ring steps. They didn't use a lot of what we thought they were going to use. Now, Apollo Crews, I thought his intro was a little uneventful. Again, WWE really skimping on the entrances this year. But no doubt about it, we've been saying it for about 6 weeks now, Apollo Crews has done a tremendous job with the change of his character. I mean, I know the accent is a little bit to get used to because it's almost like the reverse of what we're used to. You know, Lana comes in with the accent. Now she sounds normal voice. Kofi came in, Jamaican me crazy, and then Kofi loses the accent. We've had some people lose it over the years. This time around, it's the opposite. Apollo gained the accent. But I know Apollo used the accent before, but when Apollo Crews has one character in WWE for years and years and years, you get used to it. So I think Apollo Crews has done a phenomenal job. And guess what? When they teased, remember the United States Championship on Raw and an MVP having one title and Apollo Crews having a title and there could only be one, and it just, I don't know, even though Apollo Crews had a championship and talking about this for his family, and say it just still didn't feel, I don't want to say it didn't feel like he earned it, but it didn't feel like he really earned it. Like you knew he was talented and you knew he definitely should have had more gold in his WWE career. This time around, though, I mean, when you realize he's facing Big E, and when you realize that even against Big E, you're still saying, you know what, I have no problem if Apollo Crews wins that title. That's not a knock on Big E. That is an extreme compliment on Apollo Crews and what he's doing. And yes, as I showed you before, Dabba-Kato makes his presence known, and he attacks Big E, leaves him laying. You know, I know a lot of people are comparing Dabba-Kato with Omos because of size. I go one step deeper. We had 2 7-foot giants take out the New Day. Omos yesterday destroyed Kofi and Xavier. Today, Dabba-Kato destroyed Big E. So these two guys took out the New Day. So Apollo Crews pins Big E, and Apollo Crews is your new champion. Very well deserved. Congratulations to him. And look, we'll see where it goes with Apollo Crews. But, you know, look, there was a couple of points during this match when Big E, for example, hit the Uranagi onto Apollo Crews onto the ring steps. That looked pretty brutal. He did a tope suicida really far into the center rampway. The match was great. I mean, Apollo Crews won because of Dabba-Kato, And some of you out there might feel like, oh, well, he needed help. The match was a Nigerian drums match. Weapons were allowed. Dabba-Kato just happens to be a human weapon. Congrats to Apollo Crews. So now we got 2 matches in a row. Pretty good. I don't think anybody's complaining. Actually, 3 matches in a row. Sheamus and Riddle was pretty damn good. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn was excellent. And Biggie and Apollo Crews was fine. So, the more I think about it, no, I think I understand Sasha and Bianca history and how special it felt yesterday, and they tore it up. But I think overall, as far as match quality, I think night 2 outperforms night 1 as far as number of matches, quality matches. But maybe the matches on night 1, you felt a little bit more. No, I got to go with night 2 as far as my choice of the 2. Now we get to Rhea Ripley and Asuka. Something was missing in this match. And I think the problem was Charlotte. Don't misconstrue it. Hear me out. You know me. I've said for a long time that it should have been Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley versus Asuka. I know a lot of you out there do not like Charlotte always being involved in a title. But storyline purposes, it would have made more sense. Charlotte and Asuka lost the tag titles. There should have been that falling out. Charlotte has history with Rhea Ripley last year. Rhea Ripley could have won the belt tonight, but she would have defeated Charlotte as well. Now, Extreme says you didn't need Charlotte. Well, now guess what? What happens if Charlotte shows up on Raw tomorrow and confronts Rhea Ripley? So the first feud is going to be Rhea Ripley and Charlotte. Wouldn't you have rather had Rhea Ripley face Charlotte and Asuka in a 3-way at Mania, win the title, and then maybe go on to someone else? Now, chances are, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but chances are, you're going to be stuck with Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley for a little while. And the thing is, and this is why I think this match fell flat today. Remember War Games, NXT? Remember how great Rhea Ripley was? Remember Rhea Ripley having a year of mediocrity, and she started to come out of it, and you could feel it. You could feel a little bit of momentum. Then you heard rumblings that she was going in the main roster. Rhea Ripley is one of the most popular women in NXT and going to the main roster. Bar none. I don't think anybody would disagree. Rhea Ripley was one of the most popular women in NXT. And it feels like because Charlotte was not going to be in this WrestleMania, they made Rhea Ripley pretty much be Charlotte. Think about the last 2 weeks, how Rhea Ripley attacked Asuka and did what she did. That felt like Charlotte was supposed to do that, but because Charlotte is not in the match, WWE had Rhea Ripley do it instead. And it did not feel right. Did not make sense. You felt like you wanted to cheer Rhea Ripley, but they insisted on her being the heel in this. So it felt like it was supposed to be a 3-way. Charlotte got COVID. I personally feel that one of 2 things happened. Either Charlotte recovered from COVID, but wasn't 100% yet to return to the ring, so for precautions, they kept her off. Or she recovered from COVID, and then Andrade, all due respect, right before WrestleMania, you throw all those bombs out there and then have the audacity to do a follow-up interview and say that, oh, I want to be WWE champion one day. If I was Vince McMahon, I'd say, fuck you. You ain't coming back to my company. Vamos, out of here. Fuck you. How do you throw all those bombs right before WrestleMania? Charlotte should not be penalized because of it, but you can't help but to think that WWE would not be beneath them to do that. So it feels like Charlotte was the one that was supposed to beat the crap out of Asuka. Charlotte probably was also supposed to beat the crap out of Rhea Ripley. And then you go into Mania as the three-way, but since it was just one-on-one, instead of just having two baby faces fight it out, they insisted on Rhea Ripley playing the role of Charlotte. That's how I felt. And I'm watching this match, and I'm trying to get into it, and you could see that Rhea Ripley is not being Rhea Ripley. It's like she's forced to play the heel because now what'll happen if Charlotte makes her return and then suddenly Rhea Ripley is acting like a babyface? Then you realize that they changed her up to basically do what they wanted Charlotte to do at Mania. And that screwed up the match, in my opinion. Yeah, Charlie, it's really, really hot in here. I got lights everywhere. I'm not wearing the vest tonight, but, we'll start using the air conditioner, but we're going a whiles already, so we're going to start bringing this home. We don't have much else to get into. We already talked about both matches in the main event. And then remember, I'll be back here tomorrow, too. Walter Clark says it great, too. Rhea was forced to be a heel, and it didn't work. Didn't work. Especially, think about this, too. What's the biggest complaint most of you out there have about Charlotte for 2021? Think about this. I just figured it out with Walter's help. What was the biggest complaint you all had about Charlotte in 2021? She came back and was immediately, or late 2020, she came back and she was immediately given a championship with Asuka. And people are like, she comes back and she's immediately put in the title picture, right? Isn't that the number one complaint that everybody has out there? Well, what did they do with Rhea Ripley? They put her on TV and they immediately put her in the championship hunt. And she acts just like Charlotte. If you're pissing off fans with how you're portraying Charlotte and you're basically having Rhea Ripley do the very same thing, how could you not expect fans to be pissed off at that? I'm a big fan of Charlotte, Soldier, so I can't rip her. I understand why people do not like Charlotte. Don't get me wrong. I understand what most of you say. But, if you're trying to mix it up a little bit, you don't bring Rhea Ripley in and do the exact same thing that people get pissed off with Charlotte. Because guess what? You're going to hurt Rhea Ripley in the process. This match should have felt a lot more special, and it didn't. She won the championship. Congrats to her. But fans want to cheer her, and they don't know what the hell to do right now. Asuka is one of the biggest baby faces in the company. And again, it's going to really suck if Charlotte returns and suddenly Rhea Ripley's acting like a baby face again. Just because she acts like a badass doesn't mean she's a heel. You could be a badass and be a baby face. So now we get that awful segment. Hulk Hogan and Titus O'Neil come back out to close out, their appearances tonight. Thank you all for coming. WWE Universe, you make it special, blah, 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 blah. Bayley comes out, and she wants her time. She has pyro go off, which was pretty cool. And again, a lot of us were wondering if Becky Lynch is going to make an appearance. She interferes a segment with Bayley. Instead, we get the Bellas. And the Bellas are confronting Bayley, and Bayley calls one of them, she looks like an Elmo because of the way the colors, the Tickle Me Elmo or whatever. But then she says to Nikki Bella that, I don't know if you heard, but John Cena is not here tonight. And she also called them twin idiots. But she name drops John Cena. Nikki Bella slaps Bayley. Her glasses go flying. And I guess Brie Bella tried to hit her move on Bayley. Crowd booed them out of the building. Out of the building. And believe me when I tell you, even though a lot of them may have expected Becky Lynch, if they were fans of the Bellas, they would not have booed them out of the... But this isn't Rey Mysterio being the last entry in the Royal Rumble and they thought it was going to be someone else. That's not the case. Those fans visibly did not like the Bellas being in that segment. And then on top of it, you have the Bellas with Hogan, and it just fell flat. Was not needed. But so your main event tonight, Edge versus Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton. Daniel Bryan came out pretty much what you expected him to wear, basically a sweatsuit jacket, regular trunks, basically how Daniel Bryan dresses. Edge, a little bit more formal attire, rated R superstar. And let me tell you something, Edge was over tonight, and I loved it because they brought back the rated R superstar. And that's what I was saying at the very beginning of the show tonight. We're in 2021 where things are censored, you got cancel culture, you got this, you got that. And trust me, some of those causes we all believe in. But the thing is, when it feels that it's too much, having a character come back that pretty much goes against authority, goes against the grain, and then backs it up in the ring, crowd gets into that. We talked about it on Friday. Daniel Bryan cut a promo Friday that was awesome, but Edge might have even hit it one notch better. And they see everything that Edge has done since he came back from this injury. Talk about a tale of a year. A year ago, Edge comes back at the Royal Rumble. So it's a moment that we'll never forget. Originally, WWE screwed up with the cameras, not getting that spear, but thank God there was an alternate camera. But he went into Mania, and it kind of fell flat. And then he had the match with Randy Orton in Mania that everybody said felt way too long, that it was filmed in advance, that there was 1,000 edits, and people didn't like that it didn't feel organic. They don't look, anybody pre-recorded with editing and splicing and putting things together and doing double and triple takes on stuff, anybody could look like $1 million. So the fact that that came out, it turned a lot of people the wrong way. And Edge was legitimately offended by it. And now when you put it all together and you understand how many years this guy was forced into retirement and was obsessed to maybe one day be able to come back, and then finally gets that opportunity, and then has social media going totally against him, that kind of like puts a chip on your shoulder. And then he got injured again. And then you're thinking, oh, this guy, he's injury prone and he can't come back. And he comes back, has a phenomenal performance at the Royal Rumble, wrestles an hour, and then, and this to me, sold me, the following night on Raw, has 20 minutes with Randy Orton. So in 24 hours, 2 matches, wrestle almost 90 minutes, and then he has the match with Jey Uso, and then now you realize, okay, doesn't matter what his age is. Guy is talking better than 95% of the roster. The guy is performing on the level of 95% of the roster, and he's got a Hall of Fame resume to back it up. And then you realize the amount of commitment that this man gave to come back. All of that, and then him killing it with his promos. There's a reason why Edge is in the Hall of Fame. So you're basically, for people that are new to wrestling, you're basically seeing why Edge is in the Hall of Fame. And the crowd ate it up. I kind of felt bad a little bit for Daniel Bryan tonight. Overall, the crowd was really into him, but there were points that you could tell those fans wanted Edge to win this. No question. Roman Reigns coming out originally with Jey Uso. Paul Heyman, we did not get an appearance from Jimmy Uso tonight. And match starts out with a flat-out brawl outside the ring. Roman Reigns laid out. Jey Uso gets involved almost immediately. Ultimately, Jey Uso cross paths with Edge. Edge basically lays him out. They have people around ringside attending to Jey Uso. And basically at this time also Roman Reigns is quote-unquote laid out. Jey Uso goes to the back, and we're thinking, okay, finally we're going to get the three-way with nobody getting involved. And they brawled outside the ring, inside the ring, chairs being used, chairs being destroyed. I didn't have enough time to get more photos for you. Because remember, I go live 2 minutes after the pay-per-view ends. But I was trying to search and screenshot everything I possibly could for you. And the best I could come up with was this. Now, you could see a little bit on the right side of Edge's hand. You could see he has like a metal pole in his hand. There was an incredible... Darren is saying excuses. You realize I took 37 screenshots while the pay-per-view was on and I'm preparing for the show for all of you. If I had an hour or two to prep and then go live, hell, I could have even more. But I try to be as good as in-depth as possible. You see that? There, I'm sure it's out there by now, but there was a spectacular visual. Edge had the crossface on Roman Reigns and had the bottom part, the bar of a folding chair. And he had it in Roman Reigns' mouth and he's pulling backwards. And the camera's right in their face and the visual was incredible. Then you have Daniel Bryan hits the ring. Daniel Bryan first grabs Roman Reigns' right arm, and they're both basically putting a submission move on Roman Reigns. Then they're kind of jockeying who does the crossface. Next thing you know, Daniel Bryan and Edge are headbutting each other, and there's just a flat-out brawl. I mean, they just killed it. Daniel Bryan a couple of times had the yes lock on Roman Reigns. There was also, and this is why I love Paul Heyman stuff more than anything, you watch Paul Heyman outside the ring, Paul Heyman sells everything exactly the way it should. There was one point where Daniel Bryan had the crossface, the yes lock, on Roman Reigns, and Edge was nowhere to be found. And Paul Heyman had a look on his face of concern, but then you could tell that Edge was on the other side of the ring. And Paul Heyman is literally begging Edge to break it up. And Edge broke it up. But they just had a phenomenal match. There was another point where Roman Reigns and Edge both had the same intentions. They both wanted to spear each other. And like two Brahma bulls colliding in the ring, they both tried to spear each other and both nailed each other with their shoulders. So they were laid out for a little while. But in the end, Daniel Bryan teased that he was going to give a concerto. Edge then knocks out Daniel Bryan with a spear, knocks out Roman Reigns, comes in with a chair, starts chair bashing both of them. Crowd is eating it up. Crowd is enjoying every minute of it. And Edge sets up Daniel Bryan with a concerto and nails him with it. So you know Daniel Bryan is done. You know he ain't winning the title now. Concerto, that's it. You do not get up from that. He starts setting up Roman Reigns with the concerto, and Jey Uso returns. Jey Uso, as he's beating up Edge, he's like, Oos, get up. And you see Roman Reigns going into the corner and positioning himself, and Edge spears Jey Uso. I don't know if he actually speared Jey Uso, but he took out Jey Uso. And then the next thing you know, Edge turns around and is speared by Roman Reigns. So Edge is down. So Roman Reigns basically takes Edge, nails him, sets him up, because concertos all across towards the end, sets up Edge, nails Edge, and then basically pulls Edge's carcass and drags it on top of Daniel Bryan, who was already laid out. and pins both Daniel Bryan and Edge to retain the championship. Roman Reigns is still your Universal Champion. Phenomenal match. The crowd easily. And look, I'm not trying to compare, so I don't want to start any controversy, but I thought the crowd was hotter for this match than Sasha and Bianca last night. It was a little different. And I'll tell you the truth, I think WWE had the mics set up a little bit different tonight compared to yesterday, because there were people yesterday that were saying to me, wow, the crowd was dead for a lot of times during the night. But I had people who enjoy the show sending me their iPhone footage, and their iPhone footage, everything is loud, lively. And you could tell when stuff is piped in and when stuff isn't. They were piped in all throughout the night, but most of it was very, very subtle to make sure nothing seemed dead. WWE is not getting rid of the soundboard anytime soon. All right. The thing is that, you're in a baseball field with 25,000 fans with that much open air, and you don't have the mic set up a certain way. It doesn't come across as very loud on TV. So they were piping in extra crowd noise to enhance. But you could tell, what happened with the Bellas, a little bit with Hogan. Edge came out, Daniel Bryan, some of the chants, even Kevin Owens. That was organic. And believe me when I tell you, I think some of the chants you got tonight, those are being saved to be used in the future. Yeah, everybody's saying the same thing with the sound, but Roman Reigns retains. We got to see what's next. I personally think Daniel Bryan and Edge should be the way to go. This way, there's no titles involved. There's a legitimate reason why each guy wants to get to the other. I am just wondering if they're going to go with Big E and Roman Reigns. Yesterday, a lot of you were talking about how you would like to see Cesaro go up against Roman Reigns. And I like it. The only thing is, I think almost everybody out there will agree with me. It does not feel whatsoever that Cesaro would have any chance of winning the championship. But you know what? The reason why I still want to see it is because WWE has done tag team championships with Cesaro before. They gave him a girlfriend. They did the League of Urinations. They've done things with Cesaro in the past. If they give him a feud with Roman Reigns, even though there's no shot of him winning a championship, if the crowd is very receptive of it, fans online, social media, and people really that might help Cesaro go to the next level and stay there. So I'd rather see him get that opportunity, and maybe this puts a little thought in WWE's minds like, hey, we should keep Cesaro a little bit more elevated than before, because, if the right scenario comes into play, he could be champion down the line. So, yeah, I remember the rumors of Cesaro a year ago. Sure, there were some rumors about him getting a championship. No, Charlie, it's the League of Nations, but I always called it the League of Urinations because whenever they were on TV, I wanted to go take a pee. That's my dumb joke. I'm doing this for years. I always made comments like that. So it's the League of Nations. But I don't know. Do you go with Cesaro first and then you go to Big E? I have no idea. The reason why I don't think you go with Big E right now is because Big E right now should want to get his hands on Dabba-Kato and maybe a rematch with Apollo Crews, even though rematches are not guaranteed. So I think you keep Big E with Apollo Crews for a little bit longer, and because it would be kind of dumb for Big E to just totally bypass that and go after Roman Reigns. So I think right now, maybe you have Cesaro. Who knows? But I think by the summertime, though, you got to go with Roman Reigns and Big E. I think that is what a lot of fans want to see. And by July or August, we will have fans in attendance. I don't know. There's always a possibility of it happening by June. Trust me, it could happen. But I think July, August is really what WWE is gunning for. I know AEW is gunning for August to tour in a couple of other states. So, August is only 4 months away. And it'll get here very, very quickly. So we'll see where it goes. But overall, yesterday I did not give a rating, a 1 to 10 rating, because it was not a complete pay-per-view, if you think about it. But as far as the 2 nights of WrestleMania, I give it a solid 8. I give it a solid 8. And the reason why I don't give it a 9 or a 10 is because, we had 2 excellent main events on both nights. Fabulous. Is it going to be matches that we're going to remember 10 years from now? Bianca and Sasha, probably. Edge, Daniel Bryan, and Roman Reigns, especially if Edge comes back and, builds an even bigger resume. I don't know how much we're going to really recall this match. The Fiend, Randy Orton stuff was just awful the way they went about that. Some of the other matches just felt more like a Raw or a SmackDown. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn was excellent. Riddle, Sheamus was excellent. Seth Rollins and Cesaro was excellent. Big E and Apollo Crews was excellent. They weren't tear the roof down, unbelievable. I'll watch those matches again in a couple of months across the board. I don't think it was on that level. But look, if I said to you Cesaro and Seth Rollins on a scale of 1 to 10 was an 8 or a 9, I think people would agree with that. It's not a 10, but it could be a 9. But then you look at the Gauntlet or the Turmoil match, what was that, a 2 or a 3? So everything has to average out. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a solid 8. I think 8 is very fair. Bryan felt night 1 was better. But his highlight of the night, Jay helping Roman, got a little bit out of hand. Yeah, that's pretty much the story with Roman with his belt across, his entire reign. I mean, he's a heel, so this enhances him being a heel. But, I think Roman Reigns is doing a fabulous job as heavyweight champion. No need to take the belt off of him right now. But let me know what you think. Everybody that you posted comments yesterday, I've responded already back to about 95% of you. Post a comment tonight in the feed, in the comment section. Let me know what your favorite match was, which match you... Actually, I didn't even tell you. My favorite match tonight, I have to go with the main event. Edge versus Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan. It's an excellent match, told a great story. Nobody lost in the end. Edge loses no stock, even though he got pinned. Daniel Bryan loses no stock. Roman Reigns, the right person, won. So I go with them as my favorite match of the night. My least favorite match of the night, this might surprise some of you. But, actually, no, it doesn't. I forgot about Fiend and Randy Orton. I almost said Asuka and Rhea Ripley because I thought it was very disappointing. But no, Randy Orton and The Fiend, easily least favorite match of the night. So main event, my most favorite. Curtain jerker, least favorite. So let me know what you think. Post your comments. I will definitely get back to all of you. And I am going to jet out of here. So once again, everyone, if you enjoyed tonight's show, I'd appreciate it on the way out if you could give it a thumbs up. And don't forget, tomorrow night, right after Raw, 11:05 p.m. Eastern, I am back here once again. We'll recap Raw. It's the night after WrestleMania. So things are going to happen. It's not going to feel the same with Thunderdome, with the piped-in noise, but we're getting some surprises tomorrow night. Will Brock Lesnar show? That's the one that everybody seems to be thinking. Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. Brock Lesnar versus Lashley versus Drew. That could happen as well. We'll see if Charlotte confronts Rhea Ripley. We'll see if anybody else. Look, some of you out there are convinced that Adam Cole is going to the main roster after what happened at TakeOver earlier this week. Doesn't TakeOver feel like so long ago? We had a huge week of wrestling. NXT 2 nights, AEW, Raw, SmackDown, WrestleMania. My God, just add up the amount of hours. It was a good week. It was a good week for us wrestling fans. I think there was something for everyone. It had its ups and its downs, as wrestling always does. But I tell you, I was hyped for this week, not on the level of years past, but I think overall, looking back over the last 7 days, I enjoyed this week. I really did. I hope you all enjoyed it as well. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Yeah, it's not over yet. We got the night after WrestleMania tomorrow, so we'll see what happens then, and we will talk about it. So everyone have a fabulous night. For those working tomorrow, don't work too hard. Stay safe. And I will be here Monday night, 11:05 p.m. Eastern, with your Raw night after WrestleMania recap. So everyone be well. I'll catch you all soon. Ciao, everybody.